Your new strategy will fail too. Not because it's bad, but because you will break it. Be honest. How many strategies have you tried already? 5, 10, 20? They all looked good on paper, they gave you hope, you thought this is the one, this will finally get me funded. And yet you are still not making money. Why? Because the strategy isn't the problem. Your unconscious patterns are, and until you fix that, nothing will change. How do I know? I work with dozens of traders stuck at break-even, and every single one of them thought they had a strategy problem, but most of the time them being stuck had nothing to do with the system, but everything to do with 6 hidden reasons, which is why every system you tried eventually failed. And if you click away and don't break this cycle now, your next strategy will fail too, just like the last one and the one before that. So let's break the cycle today, starting with the first mistake, which happens right when you are most vulnerable during a losing streak. Tell me if this sounds familiar. You take 3-4 losses in a row, you panic, you feel like the strategy is broken, you start questioning every rule, and instead of sticking to a system, you jump to a new one again. But here is what you don't realize. That losing streak is often when the system is about to turn. You just absorbed all the natural downsides, and right before the upside hits, you quit. So what happens? You start again with a brand new system, and guess what? That one will also hit a losing streak, because every system has bad periods. So again, you switch, and the cycle repeats. Basically, you collect all the pain, but none of the reward. And look, I used to do this too, just like every trader. But when I understood what I'm explaining to you now, I stopped instantly. Every system has variance, and if you only stick around for the drawdowns, you are trading at the worst possible time. You are exiting at the exact moment the edge is about to kick in. So what's the solution? Expect drawdowns, plan for them, and never judge a system during a losing streak. That's not when you decide if it works. That's when you decide if you can handle how it works. But even if you stay consistent during the losing streak, that doesn't mean the strategy will work for you. Because most traders fail for a deeper reason. They don't even understand how strategies actually work, which brings us to the next point. So let me ask you this. How many trades do you think you need before you can really judge a strategy? 20? 50? Most traders make emotional decisions after 5 to 10 trades. But that's not data, that's randomness. Real edge only shows up over huge samples, 100, 200, 300 trades. Not because the strategy is bad, but because this is how statistics work. And this is where most traders fail. They see 3 losses and start tweaking. They get stuck at break-even for a month and start switching. And they have no clue that this is just a normal part of trading, not a sign of failure. So unless you learn how to zoom out and let the system breathe for at least 30-50 trades, you will always be stuck reacting to noise. But even if you commit to one system, even if you understand long-term edge, there is still something you are ignoring. And it's one of the biggest hidden costs in trading. Think about it. How long did it take you to feel comfortable with your last system? To stop second guessing your rules? To actually trust your entries under pressure? Now imagine restarting that curve every 2 months. Because when you adopt a new strategy, it's not just trying something different. It means you will be worse at execution for weeks and even months. You will miss trades, you will make mistakes, you will hesitate, overthink, misclick, doubt, and every one of those mistakes costs you money. That's the cost of switching, and it happens every single time. So no matter how good the system looks on paper, every time you switch, you delay consistency. And the more you switch, the further consistency slips away. But that's not the worst part, because even if you stick with a system long enough, even if you know the rules, there is something else you will need, and without it your edge means nothing. So let's say you finally found a strategy you like. You stop switching, you try to follow the rules, but somehow you are still not consistent. Why? Because there is one thing you are still missing: trust. See, you might know your rules, you might backtest the strategy for hundreds of trades, but the moment you go live, doubt creeps in. You hesitate, you exit early, you don't pull the trigger, you watch the setup and say, nah, I don't trust it. Because trust doesn't come from knowing your rules, it comes from repetition under pressure. From seeing the system work in live markets with real money through winning weeks, break-even weeks, and even drawdowns. And that takes time. It takes months, which means if you've been switching systems every 1 to 2 months, you literally never given yourself the chance to build real trust with any system. If your brain doesn't trust the system, you will override it every time emotions spike. And as long as that happens, no strategy will ever make you money. But what most traders do when that happens, they don't push through, they don't fix the root issue, they just change the strategy again because it feels easier, safer, more hopeful. But that's exactly what keeps them stuck, which leads us to the next point. Let's say you finally settled on a system, but after a while you start adding rules, an indicator here, a confirmation there, and before you know it, your strategy is a mess and you wonder why you can't follow it. Let me ask you something. Do you ever find yourself thinking, this rule makes sense too, might as well add it? Or you backtest 3 months and say, wait, what if I also check for divergence and only take trades during London session and only if a higher time frame is in line with the trend? It sounds smart, it sounds like optimization, but in reality, it's just overcomplication. Because the more rules you add, the fewer setups you will get. That's a fact. More filters equals less trades, which means slower growth, more second guessing, and more frustration. And that's if you can even follow the strategy at all. Because the second your rules become too complex, your brain will start skipping steps. You will miss entries, you will hesitate, you will break rules without even realizing it, not because you are lazy or dumb, but because there is too much to process, especially under pressure. One of the biggest leaps I made in my own trading was when I removed 90% of my rules, because I realized the goal is execution and I will never execute a system I don't fully trust or can't even remember all my rules when I'm deciding a trade. See, simple strategies don't just perform better in the long run, they are the only ones you will actually be able to follow, especially when there is real money on the line. And the more you simplify, the more consistent you will become, the more money you will make. But even if you know this, there is still one last thing traders can't handle, and that one thing is pain. Let's be honest. Most traders don't switch strategies based on logic. They switch because they can't handle how real trading feels. How many times did you switch systems right after or in a drawdown or after a break-even month? You thought, this system doesn't work anymore, I need something better, I will try this new strategy, it looks better. But deep down, it wasn't about the edge, it was about the emotion. Because let's be real, you weren't searching for a better strategy, you were searching for relief. A relief from frustration, a relief from the doubt, a relief from the pain of doing everything right and still losing. And the new strategy gives you that. Hope, excitement, fresh motivation. But that relief only lasts until the next losing streak. And then the cycle repeats over and over again. I've seen it dozens of times through coaching. Traders who were this close of breaking through, but right before the breakthrough, they switched because they thought the pain meant something was wrong, but it didn't. The pain was the price of becoming profitable. And until you accept this, you will keep switching. You will keep searching for the perfect system instead of becoming a trader who can actually make money. So now you know. These were the real reasons every strategy you tried eventually failed. So now the question is this: will you break this cycle or keep repeating it? Because if you don't change, your next strategy will fail too, just like the last one and the one before that. But even if you stop switching strategies, that alone still won't make you profitable, because it's only one of the 6 core reasons why traders stay stuck even after years of trying. So if you are serious about finally becoming a full-time trader, watch this video